The United States and President Trump, who definitely need to take a lot of credit for this, as all of the hostages, the living hostages, have been returned home. I can't believe we're saying it. I can't believe we're here as we are on the precipice of a peace deal. Obviously, that there is currently a ceasefire in place with some restrictions. We'll go through what that looks like. But today is also another day to celebrate. It's also a day to mourn with the families of those families that will not be coming home. As we know that was many people who did not survive. Of course, there are also many bodies and remains that have not been returned. Now, 2 cases, 2 ACLJ clients, we know were part of this, including the twins who we saw reunited yesterday. We didn't do a show yesterday. I was traveling, George was traveling. We also were working on this to make sure we had full confirmation that our clients were back safe. They were back safe, and we also know, sadly, we'll talk about this a little bit later, that the remains of one of our clients' families was one of those that was returned. So again, there is excitement, there's celebration, there's also the true somber side of what looks to be the end of the war. President Trump claimed it to be the end of the war. We sure hope so.
This was a historic achievement. The fact that for 2 years, this was not an easy process. The prior administration was not able to get anywhere close to this. There were smaller hostage returns along the way, but just extended the war in many ways. But just so everyone knows, the ACLJ represented the families of 10 different hostages. 8 of those have been released and are back home throughout the course of this 2-year period, and 2 have sadly died as a result of being hostages. And one of those, we found out the remains were returned yesterday. That gives closure to the family. That is something that the Israeli government was adamant about. But there's still 24 missing hostages that are dead that have not been returned. So that part of phase 1 isn't technically complete. Hamas said they need more time to locate the remains of those hostages, but that work is not done yet.
And I was in Israel in March, and I visited one of the kibbutz and also the Nova Festival, where horrible events happened on October 7th. And so, yes, just as you're saying, as yesterday was a very much joyous day. I think about just the memories and all the people that were lost, all the families that didn't have, their hostages come back alive. And I just continue to pray for those people. And one of them would be, one of our clients was Guy Iluz, who Doris, his mother, is American. And I just texted her because we just found out that his remains had been returned. And so
one of the few.
Yes, that's right. And so again, this is an event that's going to affect these people and their lives. And really, like you're saying, Logan, all of us, we will remember this day, and we should never forget what happened on October 7th. But what we were able to do with the hostages, not only were we able to bring the hostage families over to the United States and host them and take them to events on Capitol Hill and meet with congressmen, we also were able to represent 10 of the hostages before the working group on enforced or involuntary disappearances at the UN. And that is, their mandate is basically to engage in the countries that possibly, take these citizens hostages, as well as Israel. So working with Israel, and even though Hamas is not a country, working with Israel and Hamas. We had 10 of them, and like you said, we had victories and some sad moments. 8 of our clients were released, and that was, if you recall, the Brodich family. It was a mother and her 3 small children, 10, 8, and 4. And then 2 of the women, Emily Damari and Dorn Steinbrecher, and actually Emily was one that was taken with the twins, Ziv and Gali Berman. They went to help her, and all 3 of them were abducted. And then Ziv and Gali were the two of the 20 that were released and alive, and we were very happy about that. And then we did have 2 clients, one, of course, Guy, who did not make it back alive, and then another one, Alon Shamriz, who did not.
When you started to deal with the actual loss and knowing these people and seeing these families and being face to face with them, like I said, it caused a lot of heartbreak for them, and it caused a lot of heartbreak for our team who had been there. I tried to set up our offices here for so that going in, that there's a chance that not just that it could be a legal, when it's these stakes. It's not a legal case that can be lost. It's lives that can be lost. And that happens sometimes. And it's brutal and it's horrible, but it's the reality of working in these high stakes things. And we can't have we have to have people like you who are unafraid of that, and people who are at least willing to take on that stress and that responsibility, work all night because the time change, all those different things that I don't know if people put into perspective of what our team is doing around the clock.
Now the work to get this broader peace in place and a different life for those in Gaza starts to begin. Now, you know that Israel has already withdrawn to a certain demarcation line. They are not all the way in Gaza. They are starting to pull back their troops. As a part of this plan, they will continue as different achievements and different benchmarks are met, withdraw further. The hard part now is Hamas disarming. Hamas needs to disarm and cede their control over Gaza. They were elected by Gazans about 20 years ago when Israel fully withdrew from Gaza, but they never gave up power. And they have this power. They did not want to let go of the power. They were dictators in Gaza. They ruled with an iron fist. It was their way only. The Islamic resistance was the credo and the motto and the entire ideology of their government. So that is a big deal that we have gotten this far even, and that they even signed on to this agreement to begin. But the real hard work, it's not as if, okay, now we're at this point, let's just hand it off, and okay, now we'll just lay down our arms and move on. We saw that Hamas executed in the street over 30 people that they believed worked with Israel on this, of their own people yesterday. So they aren't disarmed yet. So that big step about what happens next is what everyone needs to be watching.
You saw what happened yesterday.
Right.
President Trump flies to Egypt, and there's just every flag imaginable behind him pretty much. That's a lot of countries,
right,
who are going to be holding you accountable. You have to be concerned that if you start violating it, if you have any care for your own life, and look, I think they don't, but I also think there is a group of people, like you said, or at like the seventh string Hamas right now, that they maybe do care a little bit more about their own human life, and maybe they're not going to violate it any further. That may be wishful thinking. We will see. I think we'll see pretty quickly. What you got to give it, though, is that it's only been a few months. It's been 10 months of a President Trump term, and he was able to get this done. I think for those who've said, was it day one? No, but it was year one, and I think that is, equally as impressive